Hello everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. Today, County Seat is on location at the very top of the beautiful Powder Mountain Resort in Weber County. Now this is a resort that spans Weber County and partly into Cache County. And the landscape here seems fairly pristine as far as ski resorts go, but the landscape is about to change. How will it change? And how is the change facilitated is the topic of our show today. As a matter of fact, a new partnership for Weber County. This is a new kind of thing for them, but it's been tried before. A public-private partnership to facilitate development. We're going to analyze that mechanism, how it works, and what the county commissioners of Weber County see as the benefit from taking on this kind of an obligation. We'll start with a story on the public-private partnership with Terry Wood.
Typically, when we hear about a real estate development project, there's a negative image of homes stuffed as tightly as there is space to fit them. However, this particular story is not about that scenario.
In a nutshell, the project is about building a epicenter of innovation here in the Wasatch Mountains for a community of innovators, nonprofit leaders, entrepreneurs, scientists. So the summit community has been built over the last 6 years. And the idea was really to give them a home base.
While the Summit Mountain Holding Group is a story all on their own, the focus here is on the public-private partnership that Weber County and Summit entered into, one that will create the catalyst to bring a grand vision to fruition. A public-private partnership is a relationship between the government and a private entity or a private organization. In this case, Weber County agreed a little over a year ago to enter into this idea of a public-private partnership with the development here at Powder Mountain. It's currently owned by Summit Mountain Holding Group. In its simplest form, the partnership is really twofold from a financial perspective.
One, the county facilitated backstopping a bond arrangement or a bond structure in order that the developer could build out a new major road for the project as well as water and sewer infrastructure. The second component is through the creation of what's called a community development project area. And that's an opportunity that will allow the project to benefit from an increase in the new property tax revenues that are generated from the development.
So why would a county government get involved in a project like this in the first place?
In terms of the county being a catalyst or helping facilitate the development here at Powder Mountain is the largest ski resort in the entire country. Certainly the real estate up here and the resort up here has been subject over the years to other development opportunities. Other developers have come in with different visions and different plans. The thing that I think separates Summit Mountain Holding Group with their development vision is their approach to the community and their approach to the environment at the top of the mountain.
For this resort specifically, we own over 10,000 acres, and so we're really trying to concentrate all development within sort of a 40-acre area, and even within that, really within sort of a 16-acre area. So we're really trying to leave a lot of broad open space.
Beyond the careful planning that seeks to leave a small footprint, there are also a number of economic development opportunities.
You think about the people that the Summit organization are bringing into this environment for their weekend or their annual events. They're corporate leaders, they're entrepreneurs, investors, thought leaders from really around the globe, and they're delivering those people right to our front door.
Sounds like the proverbial win-win at 9,000 feet. For the county seat, I'm Terry Wood.
Thanks, Terry. Right now, we have an understanding of what this project is about, and you kind of get a flavor of public-private partnerships. When we come back, we will talk with the Weber County Commissioners, and we will find out the decision-making process and what they see in the future of this kind of an agreement. We'll be back with the county seat right after this commercial break.
Cedar City, Utah is home of the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival. But did you know that we also offer a different kind of play?
Escape the gray. Head south for clear skies. Cedar City, Bryan Head.
I lived in Phoenix and then down in Orange County in California, and I met a small town girl and she brought me home. Just the smaller community that makes you feel like when you go somewhere you know everybody. You know, the sporting programs, the dance events, all these kinds of things, you run into people you know and that care about you and your family. And that makes it just a wonderful place to have little ones like this.
Isn't it time you found the balance you've been looking for? Uinta County, Utah.
Bring your family and friends and come celebrate the retreat of winter with thousands of snow geese as they stop in Delta, Utah on their migration north. Pick your adventure in Millard County.
Skiing is expensive, right? Well, how about we do something about that? Eagle Point, southern Utah's premier resort located right outside of Beaver, Utah, is proud to announce $25 lift tickets all season long. Ski and snowboard Utah's newest resort for the lowest price, and find out why the Point, with its family-friendly staff and great atmosphere, will become your second home. $25 lift passes all season. Go to eaglepointresort.com for eligibility and restrictions. 5 lifts, 40 named runs, 1,500 vertical feet. Endless possibilities. Eagle Point Resort.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are today having our discussion on top of Powder Mountain Resort. Beautiful clear skies, 360. It's a fine day up here. Joining us for our conversation on public-private partnerships are the commissioners of Weber County, Commissioner Matthew Bell, Commissioner Kerry Gibson, Commissioner Jan Zogmaster. Welcome all to the show. How did this all take place?
There's a long history of proposed developments up here at Powder Mountain, and a few years ago, the developers approached Weber County with an idea, one that was quite different from the ideas of the past, and one that was very intriguing to us in Weber County. And this is a result of now more than a year of hard work and discussion among all of our county agencies.
You have a series of things that you have either done or going to do. And it started really around a bond issue, is that not correct?
We were approached to see if we would use our rating in order for the investors to get a good rate as they went out, and that's where it started.
Oh, by the way, congratulations to you on the renewal of your AAA bond rating.
Yes.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
It's
quite an accomplishment.
Quite an accomplishment. It says a lot for the financial management in our county.
You're just guaranteeing this bond, or basically the loan, is that correct?
Correct. And a lot of the mechanics where we got to this point happened far before I came into office. I've been in office for a year. When I got here, the previous commissioners had got a lot of the framework together for this project to get it moving forward. And so as we started talking to the developer, they needed to do some road, water tank, sewer, and we helped them, give them the vehicle that could help them to do this project, to bring those things so they could have those, so they could continue the building project up here.
Now basically they're paying for the infrastructure, but it actually
Yes.
will become the county's at completion, is that not correct?
That's correct.
So you guys kind of acquire county-owned infrastructure, but somebody else is paying for it, even though you've loaned them the money to get there.
Exactly, and we will have that responsibility for that road. So these roads that they're building, and the sewer line and the water line meets all our specifications. We are right involved with them, making sure it's all our specifications they meet, and then it will become our project when it's complete.
Which, by the way, is common practice among, with development, that a county or city will require infrastructure to be put in at the expense of the developer, and then that's deeded to the county to be maintained as county infrastructure.
Right, and it's good for our audience to know this, because until I was involved with the county seat, I didn't fully understand that. So.
Well, and this is different than your traditional bonds, because it's an assessment bond, and that's something that also needs to be,
Well, explain that to me, Jan.
Well, an assessment bond is one where the owners of the property are the ones that are paying back the bond. It is not the county paying it back. It's not the taxpayers that are paying it back. It's those who live within the assessment area. And the assessment area at Powder Mountain is a small area of the total acreage of Powder Mountain that has been defined and mapped out And that is part of the agreement on an assessment bond, that the bond is issued and the payback is by those who have the ownership.
Now, as you go forward, there's going to be a community development area, and there's going to be some tax structure in there that's also going to assist in getting this stuff done. Is that? Could you explain? Somebody kind of explain how that is moving forward, or how that fits in?
That is in process right now. It's being negotiated and discussed, and you know, if we have time, we could go into more detail on that.
All right, well, we'll pick that up right after we come back from the break. You're watching the County Seat. We're talking about public-private partnerships and the plans for Powder Mountain, going from a seasonal ski facility to really year-round resort community. And we'll be back in the County Seat in just a minute.
Kanab, base camp for your southern Utah adventures. You belong in Kanab.
Making sure your food is safe. It starts on the farm and continues every step of the way, all the way to your local grocery store. So when you bring home food for your family, you do so with the peace of mind that it's safe, fresh, and nutritious. Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, the guardians of Utah's food supply and sustainable agriculture. Visit ag.utah.gov for more information.
I didn't order this.
Compliments of the lady in gold.
Hello, trouble.
Anything worth doing in this quiet little town? You look like the kind of man that could show a girl a good time.
You strike me as the kind of girl that likes a manicure and a massage.
How's that for a manicure?
I hate golf.
I was hoping for something a little more vigorous.
Vigorous, I can do.
And I thought you'd be riding side saddle.
What? I'm gonna regret this. How about that manicure?
Welcome back to the County Seat. We are discussing a public-private partnership between Weber County and I guess really some of the other taxing entities and a private developer of Powder Mountain Resort. So, Jan, we left at the end of the last segment talking about a new concept or a new structure called a CDA that will actually involve all the taxing entities in helping move this project along. How does that briefly work?
Well, each one of the taxing entities within Weber County would enter into an agreement if they chose to. Enter into an agreement where a portion of their increased tax dollars, not the existing, but any new tax dollars, would go to incentivize the infrastructure and the build out to encourage this project to move forward more quickly and in a better way.
The percentage would decrease on a timetable, and then the taxing entities would have all of the benefit eventually.
After a period of time, depending on how the contract's entered into, yes, it would end at some time. It's not ongoing forever. It does have an end.
And that's an important part to consider, is that it's not saying, okay, give us a portion of your tax dollars. It's basically the tax dollars we're generating with the added value.
Yes, it's the increase.
And so I think the key word there being incentivize, as the commissioner used it, because what we're wanting to do is invest in a particular area in a way that will allow us to grow the infrastructure and make an incentive for all of the entities that are involved. So when you talk about a public-private partnership, it's not just Weber County and the developer. There are several partners involved, the Water and Sewer District, the School District, Weber County, And we're hoping to take a minimal investment and turn that into something that makes real sense for our taxpayers. It's really kind of a unique tool that that economic development departments throughout the state are starting to use frequently, that helps us to build on that incentive that's offered. For instance, for us, if you look at the roughly 1,100 acres in this development, right now that's generating about $12,000 in property tax if you look at all of the different taxing entities. Mm-hmm. And we think that by the end of this CDA that we can turn that into $12 million in property tax revenue. So it's a good deal for our taxpayers if we look at what we have now and what we can develop over a period of time by entering into this partnership with the developer.
Well, let's talk about some of the other benefits. You know, obviously people look at the counties and say, okay, all they want is tax base. What does it bring to the communities?
One of the things that it brings to the valley here is pretty much Ogden Valley is a winter activity area. It's a winter resort area. And this would bring it more into a year-round and help some of the small businesses that are in the valley and just really strengthen the economy.
Do many of them struggle in the summertime?
They do, depending on where they're located and what type of business. The majority, I mean, of course you have those that come up and use the reservoir, but it's really not a year-round benefit.
There will be, as they bring on the summer activities and they get the people up here that want to bike, that want to hike and be part of this up here, they're hoping to bring that bridge together so it's not so divided between summer and winter, the activities that we have up here.
Commissioner Bell talked about some of the things that it adds to the community, and I would just say this community has always been concerned about the environment and making and any development that was to happen here being well thought out, well planned, well reasoned, and take into account impacts to the local area and to the environment. And this development has been very well thought out. This particular development has been much more fondly received than other options that we've had in the past. Some of the residents have been very concerned about the mentality of other developers that have come into town, and they seem to be much more receptive to this group.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think because they seem, first of all, they seem to be genuinely interested in the flavor of the community and in maintaining that. And secondly, it hasn't been the traditional cover the mountainside approach that you would see from a traditional developer. They have been very, very interested in making sure that this is something that makes sense for this community, and so they have tailored their needs and their expectations to this community in specific, and I think it's been a real benefit.
Well, and I think the other thing they've done is they've came into our community. There's quite a few members of this group that have been living in our community for a few years, and they've got involved in our community more than just this project up here. They've got involved with other relationships with other organizations in our community, and I think they've been really part of that. This is a different kind of development they're doing. They, as Commissioner Gibson said, this is not going to be one where they're building these big old 25,000 square foot houses in it. This is a development that is built to fit in and be part of the landscape up here. And as they've thought this out and as they've moved forward, they've taken a lot of the citizens that live up here, they've talked to them, got feedback from them, what they like, what they dislike, and I think that's helped them move through this process.
In total, why did you see the value in doing this to proceed forward? Because typically, the thing that people say is government shouldn't be getting involved in the private sector and competing with it. But obviously, there's an incentive. What would have happened if you hadn't gotten involved?
Well, I'm not sure what would have happened, to be honest, but I see government's role as to situations like this is obviously not to compete with the private sector, but I think more importantly to put in place the right type of infrastructure that allows private investment to be able to thrive in a particular area. And I think that's really what we're looking at here. I mean, we have to compete for good economic development. There's no question about that. And generally that means providing infrastructure. And this is a tool that's been used over the last several years that has become a good tool that I think is becoming more and more prevalent throughout the country. And so this is a good opportunity for us.
Excellent. Well, we will take a break here. We will continue our conversation. We'll look at some of the things that critics have said about it and give the commissioners a chance to address those when we come back here on the county seat. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
How would you spend an extra day in Utah Valley? Stay one more day. Visit utahvalley.com to make reservations. Utah Valley. Bring everyone together.
Almost 45% of the oil produced in Utah, 7.8 million barrels, comes from Duchesne County. That oil feeds our state economy, provides job growth, and supports local business. Here in Duchesne County, we're working to make Utah an economic, cultural, and technological leader. Whether you're here for business or pleasure, Duchesne County will welcome you with open arms and invite you to explore all the beauty of the Uinta Mountains. Duchesne County, close enough for business, far enough to get away.
Have you ever wanted to recreate the world around you? Add some excitement, culture, adventure? Well, there's no need to remake the world when that perfect combination already exists. Just remember 4 words. Welcome to Weber County. In Ogden, you'll find everything you're looking for, from the top of Powder Mountain to the restaurants of our revitalized downtown. Ogden, Utah, mountain to metro and everything in between. Visit Ogden.com.
Check out these pictures from my vacation.
Where did you go again?
Garfield County, you know, like Bryce Canyon, Devil's Rock Garden.
Where's that?
Capitol Reef, Kodachrome Basin, Highway 12.
Wait a minute, I wanted to see more. A picture may be worth 1,000 words, but there's nothing like experiencing the real thing firsthand. Gather your family and see the world's largest concentration of scenic attractions. Garfield County, Utah. Find the ultimate adventure.
Welcome back to the county seat. Our topic today has been private-public partnerships. We're at the Powder Mountain Resort, which is now owned by the Summit Mountain Holding Group, and they are actively involved in the community. They've actually moved their headquarters to the community, so they're not like an outside investor. It's like kind of like a local project. But there has been criticism. I think in our conversation before the show started, Jan, you said not everybody's on board with this, and obviously there have been criticisms that say that the county is just giving money to rich people. How would you address that?
This is something that we have had, I think, a good number of the people in the valley embrace. Mm-hmm. They have encouraged it. They've given us their support. But there are those who are standing back, watching, waiting to see. This is new to Weber County. This is different. And this is a very, very, very large project. We just happen to have at this time the right people at the right time with what we see as a very responsible development that we felt like by helping on the government side with the infrastructure that we could encourage this investment and increase the return on investment.
Well, obviously that's a long-term goal. It's favorable to the community and the residents who live in it, not just the tax base. But I want to go back and address this because there are some people who are very concerned that the county's gambling with county money and this bond issue as a guarantor.
Well, there have been a number of safeguards that have been put in place to make sure that it's not a gamble, and if it is a gamble, that it's a very well calculated gamble. And some of those include making sure that we have adequate security to back up those bonds, making sure that that the developer has a reserve fund in place so that we could operate during the period when we may have to foreclose on those bonds. We are confident, having had the type of scrutiny in this area that we have over the last year or so, that we have that we have protected the interest of the taxpayers. And then you have to look at it from an investment point of view, because again, the whole point of a public-private partnership is the idea that we might be able to increase the investment for the taxpayers and increase their value at the end of the day. And so we go back to the point where we think right now we can turn a $12,000 property tax revenue into a $12 million annual property tax revenue. And so, yeah, there's times when we have to do things to facilitate that process so that the taxpayer can have that return on investment. And that's our goal in this process and has been all the way through.
One last question on this, and then I'll lay off on the criticism part. You basically have a reserve fund that would continue to pay the bond payments for 2.5 years, but sometimes in a standard foreclosure, they can stretch out to 5 years. And so doesn't that leave you with a 2.5-year exposure?
Well, that's another one of those safeguards that we put in place where we required that was immediate. So the minute that we decide that it's not working, that the county decides it's not working, in other words, the bonds cannot be paid, then we have the ability immediately to go in and start that foreclosure process.
So you're into this process now. I guess in summation, let's just go over the highlights. Would you take the same steps again? I mean, no regrets on this?
I've been in it from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would. We would be as thorough in our investigation as to, is this a good project? Will the return really turn out to be what we think it will be? I would do it again, because I don't know that we'll ever have an opportunity like this in our lifetime, because this is a huge project. But yes, I would do it again, but I would do it with the same thoroughness that we've done this time.
Well, that gives hope for, basically I'm hearing that this commission might consider another project like this in the future. You see it as the wave of the future?
I don't know about a wave, but we only have a few tools to help us with the economic development that we need. This is one of them, and it's been successful in this case to this point, and I can't see why we wouldn't try it again.
Okay. Commissioner Bell, any last thoughts?
It's been a great project. It's been interesting, and people have worked very, very hard for this, and we look forward to a lot of success up here.
Well, Commissioners, I thank you for joining us on the county seat. I thank you for inviting us into your living rooms and participating with us. I would like to remind you that you can make comments on this show by going to our Facebook page. Like us there and give us your thoughts on it. You can also watch this again and tell your friends about it on our website, thecountyseat.tv. Remember, local government is where your life really happens. You need to be involved. Tell your friends to watch this program, and we'll see you next week on the County Seat.